Welcome back, race fans. Okay, so for today's video I'm going to do a direct comparison, a 1 week later video with my is the new penalties algorithm affecting the racing. So it's a kind of a response to that video, but it's just a little look at how the lay of the land is now, 1 week after the penalties were first introduced. There are dailies rather than the manufacturer's race, so the race length is slightly shorter. There are both 12 laps. But it's a pretty good comparison of that manufacturer's race that I showed you the last week. And we'll see if it's a penalty fest or if we can get some good racing. So let's jump into the first one now. And so here we go into race one. So those little clips just there, they were from the second race, just to show that there's some interesting bits in both. I've used a different livery for each race, so all the footage from the first race is going to be using this BP Ultimate livery that I've got on now, and the footage that those little clips that you just saw from the second race, so anything where it's using the Tom Coronel BTCC livery, it's like a McGregor's white, bluey, orange livery. You'll see, it looks very different to the BP Ultimate, so you'll be able to tell which race is which, but I've sort of signposted any like changing laps that happen between clips and stuff, so you should be able to keep track of what's going on fairly easily. So there we go, got a little penalty for that. So they're not going to be completely unaffected by penalties these races, but I found things to be much better. So apart from that slight little tap we got on lap 1, which is again unavoidable, I think I'm not sure how they're going to be able to stop that happening really. Obviously it would be better if I didn't have that penalty, but compared to last week's video, I'll take that, you know. So that was a 2-second penalty that I've already served. On to lap 2. And what the hell happened there? Did you see that? That freaked the hell out of me in the race. So what happened was, I think 2 cars got into each other coming through paddock, and one of them respawned just as I was going through. And obviously it was ghosted, but it sort of became unghosted literally just as I passed through it. But yeah, it was a bit startling, to be honest. It's not what you want to be seeing when you're trying to get your braking points and everything right for paddock. This was awkward. He went, this guy was in the second race as well. He was doing pretty well in the second race. I think he might have won it, but just right there, he really got in the way in an awkward place. But it might just be one of those things. I'm not sure what he could have done. He was trying to sort of maintain where he was. He wasn't sure if I was going to dive up his inside or stick where I was, so it was a bit awkward, but that's just racing. It wasn't too bad. So race 1, I think both the races were quite calm really, relatively, certainly compared to last week's video. But I found recently, the few races that I've done, that actually the penalties do seem to have changed driving behaviour a little bit. Everything does seem to be a little bit less frantic, a little bit calmer. People aren't turning in on you as readily as they might have done otherwise. What used to happen was someone would leave the door open, you'd pull your car alongside, and then they just pretend that you're not there and turn in on you and potentially ruin both the races. Well, that's no longer the case, because I think now people know that the penalties are acting as a deterrent now. They know that if they pretend you're not there and turn in on you, as we send up the inside of this Mustang here, this is a good example of what I was just talking about. Look at that, no contact, lovely overtaking move. So it is still possible, and I might have said last week that you can't race anymore, but actually this week I've proved that you can. So, you know, don't be afraid to jump in some races. It's not all that bad anymore. I think it was bad that first couple of days because people weren't used to it. So there's just penalties left, right and centre for everything. But now that people I think have got a bit more used to what's going on, what to expect, and their driving has adjusted to suit, it's actually not too bad now. Go slide by side again here, look. Safety car. Yellow flag as well, so that made it a little bit awkward. Now he gave me a little bump there. I think he got a penalty for it, but I didn't. So that's a vast improvement over last week. I think I would have probably got a penalty for that last week. So all in all, I'm quite happy with the way it's working at the moment. I'd like it if you didn't get penalties for the small taps. but I mean, they should really be avoided. You shouldn't be tapping anyone's car, because although it's a small tap, it can be enough to unsettle them. So I don't know. I was unhappy last week with the penalties being dished out for just what I felt was honest racing, and there were big penalties as well. But so far I've not really encountered that. As we skip to a final lap of the first race. So yeah, not too much happened. It was quite a quiet race. There's not much fuel management or time management to go on. It's only 12 laps. Whereas the one that I used last week was a manufacturer's race, which had 16 laps. So there we go. Ended up in 10th, which is about where we started. But I made a lot of mistakes in that first race, which I cut out. So I ran off at paddock, lost a few places. So I could have done better. Here we go into race 2, starting from 9th. Same race, 12 laps, one of the dailies today. I think it's race C, Group 4 at Brands Hatch. And as you can see, this is the different livery. So this is the second race. And look, lots of bunching, which is as you'd expect early in the race, but I was going to say so far so good, but not quite. So we just about got away with that, and I don't think that was a penalty. So again, it's a big improvement upon last week. So here we go again, look. Just managed to get away from that. The guy behind didn't, but no penalty for that slight contact, which is great, because last week I was getting penalties for drivers rejoining the track and hitting me as they came back on. So as I say, so far things are going much better. And I feel like it is now paying off to be a cautious driver, which it wasn't really doing before. It was all about just going for qualifying laps and taking maximum risk, and to hell with anyone that gets in your way. So I can see why they're doing this, because they don't want that sort of driving in the higher ranks. If they're going to be broadcasting it to FIA and FIA partners and sponsors, they don't want to be showing races where people can't keep it on the track. There's constant contact, there's doors being slammed shut, there's people weaving, swerving, defending awkwardly, all those things. So I do think that if the aim of this penalty implementation was to try and dissuade drivers from taking risky moves, and also to change bad driving behaviour, then actually I think it's worked. I think things aren't too bad at the moment. I'm sure lots of people will still disagree, and still, you know, let me know in the comments if you've not had some enjoyable races. You know, keep letting me know. As we send it up the inside there. That was one of the clips that I showed at the start. But I just wanted to show that you can still race even on brands. You just got to be decisive. That was a very decisive move. So here you go. We got the run through Hawthorns. I gave him a little flash here, and I pulled out early, so he knew what I was doing. Yeah, nice clean move, took the position. But I will come back to this. I think it took him being compliant. He stopped turning in on me when he saw I was down the inside, and I was way down the inside as well. There's nothing wrong with that move. But I think pre-patch he would have just continued to turn in on me, and if that had happened last week, we would have both ended up with a penalty if he had done that. So yeah, I think things are quite good. I'm optimistic about the future of the game now, whereas last week I was more pessimistic. So just stick with it. I've been having some good races, so hopefully you guys can as well. What's going on here? 5th chasing down 4th. Now this was it. We have the pace here. So he pits at the end of this lap, which is mid-race. I opted to stay out for an extra lap just because I wanted the clear air. I was clearly being held up here. But as you'll see, it didn't pay out, so I lost a couple of positions when I pitted. The guys got the undercut, so everyone that came in on lap 6, they were able to go out and do their lap 7 on fresh tyres, whilst I was doing my lap 7 on warm tyres, and that's what's known as the undercut. I was banking on the clear air being able to give me enough lap time, but they wouldn't manage it. But I don't think I had a great out lap, so this one didn't work, but it's always worth a shot. And I think after this pit stop, there's not too much to happen in the second stint. Apart from that clip I showed you at the start, that's on the final lap. So that's coming up. So he goes into the pits, I stay out. Proved to be the wrong choice. And I suppose in the dailies as well, tyre wear and fuel wear and stuff, they're not as much of a factor as they are in the FIA races, so it probably wasn't a good shout to try and stay out. But I just wanted some clear track. And I don't mind scrapping and having a battle anyway, I quite enjoy it, so I'd rather have a battle for 8th than a clean drive for 5th. So I'll just skip through a few laps here because not much happens. obviously the gap between me and that guy remains pretty much the same. I think his tyres start to fall off a little bit towards the end, so we'll start to close that gap down. We'll start to really pressure him for the last lap and a half. So here we go, lap 11, look, we're right behind this guy, in the tow. What can we do? And we've got a 1 lap tyre advantage, but as I say, the tyre wear is not really a factor in this race, so we're probably pretty evenly matched. I got a better drive out of Hawthorns. Looked to do a repeat into Westfield of that move from earlier, but it wasn't really on there. Oh, slightly wide through Sheen, but we got away with it. He's about to start the last lap. He went a bit wide there. So he's struggling, he's feeling the pressure. Let's apply maximum pressure for the last lap. So here we go, on to the last lap. When we approach to Paddock Hill Bend. And he's just run a bit wide, and we just got a tap there. That was a penalty. So let's watch it again. So in the ideal world, this wouldn't have given me a penalty. And I can understand people being still angry at that. So I mean, there's nothing I could do there. I had to choose one way to go, and when I picked the direction I was going, his car was facing right. And you always try and aim, when there's something like that happening in front of you, try and aim for where the car is. So, you know, there's nothing I could, it's high speed as well, I can't stand on the brakes, so I just hit him, so I had to just pick a direction and floor it. So I couldn't have done anything to avoid the penalty. I got away with it very lightly, to be honest. That could have been a lot worse than it was. And I think it was a 3-second penalty. And I know now that they don't increment. It's only the 5 seconds and over penalties that increment. So I opted to just carry this penalty to the end of the race, rather than risk stopping, serving it, and then maybe getting caught back up in traffic like I did in last week's race. So yeah, what a difference a 7 days make, I'd say. I've learned a little bit how to drive around the system now, how best to serve penalties, and I think other people are learning to take less risk, and with that comes, because a lot of the frustration comes when someone tries to overtake you, they hit you and you both get penalties. That's clearly frustrating, but that's not happening so much now. People have sort of dialed back a little bit the amount of moves that they go for, and I had a good time both of these races. The first race I messed up, that was my mistake, so I was keen to hop in another one and just see how good a result I could get if I didn't make any mistakes. It wasn't quite penalty free, but it's far cleaner than it was 7 days ago. So there you go, I hope you guys enjoyed. I'm trying to just edit together races a bit better now, so there's not loads of just boring filler that I have to try and ramble through. Let me know if you liked or you didn't like that, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Thank you, bye.